I think I'm getting to the point where I'm probably old enough and maybe mature enough that I'm not as self-conscious about that stuff, so I'm fine putting it out there, and I guess, it's working out, you know? My name is Benji, and I am a singer-songwriter, and I have a project called Hughes. It's a alt country folk project, and it's evolved over the last couple of years from a solo singer-songwriter project to a full band situation, so that's what I'm up to these days. Yeah, I think as far as the music and the songwriting process goes, I wouldn't say that I feel overconfident with my songwriting or even as my ability as a musician. I think, I play guitar in a heavy band as well, and I've never been, like, I've always played guitar my whole life. Grew up with a guitar around the house. My mom sang and played guitar. I've never been like a theory guy or a technique guy. When I play electric guitar, I've never been drawn to like shredder guitar players. I think I've always been drawn to songs, and both musically and I guess lyrically too, since I've started to become a better lyricist, but that's more recent. I think I've always been drawn to hooks and guitar licks and riffs, and so I think that must come across my songwriting, where I kind of let certain areas of songs breathe between lyrics. I think my confidence is growing a bit as a lyricist, but it's relatively new. Like, I didn't start really writing or get serious into writing words and putting them on paper and then actually feeling confident enough to sing them in front of people and release it till, probably in reality, like the last 5 years. I do it kind of in the house, in the corner room in my office, but feedback's been great, so I think the songs have been able to connect with people, even though a lot of them are very personal and specific to things that I've gone through or am going through or am reflecting on. I think people can still draw from them and connect them to their own experiences, for sure. Yeah, so Hughes, as far as the name goes, I started this project kind of writing songs close to my heart, like family is a big theme. Hugh was actually my father's middle name, and when we were kids, me and my brothers, or not even kids, like I'm much younger than my siblings, but we would always kind of just give each other kind of pet nickname Hugh, and for some reason with me it stuck, so my siblings still sometimes call me Hugh. And I thought that'd be kind of a nice homage to my dad when I started this project. So he passed away shortly after, or right around the time I started the project. So I thought that'd kind of be special to keep that going. And yes, that's where Hughes comes from. Sometimes, people don't know that, but it's special for sure. When my wife and I were talking about, or when I was talking about the name with my wife, I think we looked it up too, and it is just like the possessive word for, son of Hugh, so it works. Because on that record, not everybody knows, but so there's songs that I wrote on there. Even though I haven't been releasing and performing solo music, there are songs on there that I wrote that date back to kind of going back to the family thing. My mom passed away in 2008, so I actually used songwriting at that point as a bit of kind of therapy for myself, and 2 songs on the record are actually songs that I wrote between 2008 and 2010, so or maybe 2012, so like almost 12 to 15 years ago, which is crazy. Dusted those off. So I think, going back to maybe how songs sound familiar, it's also just all the different influences that I've pulled on over the last decade that have kind of influenced me and influenced this kind of what has become this Hughes project. Grew up on country, hated it with my parents, road trips, if you told me 10 years ago that I'd be playing kind of country style music and like on recordings there's a, pedal steel guitar, I would have laughed. But I think there's something, that feels at home about it, because it is, for me, easier to get across the message, even in the lyrics, with this style of music. And in kind of the style of music that's influenced this project. The self-titled album, I wrote, I think, 8. There were 8 new songs that I recorded for it that hadn't been recorded before, and I shouldn't say new songs because, like I said, there's some that were older that I wrote years ago, and a handful that were brand new, finished writing right before recording. I guess to back up, right around the time I started wanting to record and get into pre-production on the album, all of a sudden Hughes went from a solo singer-songwriter situation to a full band, and I came in to Yeah, I was like so lucky now to be a part of this band that is Hughes with amazing musicians. It was fun because we played our first show in November of 2024 and the album didn't release until spring 2025. So even though I was still recording some of those songs, I was all of a sudden going from a solo act to a full band live. And so just having those guys to play with really kind of transformed some of those songs and made the performance a little bit more exciting to me and freshen things up. So there are two songs that I released previously as singles in 2024 that I ended up re-recording and including on the album. So that was Despite the Distance and Idaho. Yeah, I just thought it was, you know, those songs meant a lot to me personally, and I thought they deserved kind of a revisit, even though it wasn't that long after the original release. So I'm happy that they're included. And so that was all I had at the time. I kind of recorded everything I had in my head. Yeah, so that's the story of the 10 songs on it. No, I think it is definitely a mashup of styles that kind of come together cohesively. I was intentional when I recorded it. I didn't want it to sound super diverse. I think in my other projects, learning like going from like an infancy stage of a band or a project, sometimes you release a record and you haven't really figured out what your style is or what your sound is. Not to say that's not a cool thing to do, but I think it makes listening to it a bit easier if everything kind of fits. So there's a bit of an intention on trying to make everything kind of sound cohesive, but at the same time, like I said, like some of these songs were written over the span of over a decade, so it was hard. You know, some of them were written through a time when I was like playing post-punk, like emo music, right? So there's a song on there that at one time that's what that was. So I kind of had to, you know, it had to morph into something that fit Hughes, but it still kind of keeps true to what it was at the time. So yeah, it might not necessarily be country or true folk or Americana, but I think it has flavors of those. But at the end of the day, it's kind of just what's kind of come out of me the last 10 years. So I obsessed over album order a lot, and with both my projects, like both projects I'm involved in, so Hughes and then both with and the Narwhal album that we'll be releasing in March. And you know, I'm just one of 4 owners of that project, so we kind of obsessed over that a bit. And then, you know, the nice thing about this Hughes album at the time, it was really like, this album is basically a solo project. I had the band performing with me when I was at the tail end of recording it, but I ended up recording all the instrumentation and pretty much everything on it, so it was kind of a solo call on this one, trying to figure out album track order. And it's tough, you know, I was on Google looking up like best albums of all time, what's the order, and the funny thing is that it kept coming back, everything I did the research on, it kept coming back to Fleetwood Mac Rumors. It's like, it might not be the greatest album of all time, but it's the greatest track order album of all time, and it's like they hit a formula. So not that I'm even a fraction of what some of those songs are. It's kind of, you get thinking in that way, right? It's like, hey, you want to start with a song that isn't your banger, but it gets people interested. Second one needs to be really good so that they get to the third song. Third song needs to hit hard, and then kind of go through those phases. And then the end one needs to kind of be that thing that everybody will remember. I was really happy that Shay wanted to do The Cabin, because I had this idea of what he does in his own music, which is kind of that really ethereal stuff and like that really neat guitar work he did with Reuben in the Dark and even on Mazes. I knew it would be different than the rest of the album, so I think as a closing track it really worked, and kind of takes you through that journey and kind of caps it off nicely. But yeah, for sure, track listings and track order is always super tough. I don't think I've figured it out, but it's kind of a fun thing to have to, it's a fun problem to have to deal with, for sure, when you have 10 songs that are yours and you can put them in whichever order you want. Performing the album live, and then you have the whole other conversation with your bandmates, like, oh, what order should we play? Because we're not going to play it in the album order, that's weird. So we got to like kind of come, you know, figure out that whole like, do we mix it up, come in slow and then get bigger, or do we go, you know, up and down and keep the audience kind of wondering? So it's always an interesting process. Like, set lists are kind of a funny thing. Track listing's funny, but it's all, at the end of the day, like a good time, and it's never doesn't work. It's and like the listener and the audience probably aren't going to care too much, just as long as they hear the music they want to hear. So yeah. As far as collaborating with other artists and then all of the different things I'm involved in. I wasn't really involved in the music scene here in Yellowknife for many years. I was in a pretty active band, you know, in the early 2010s that ended up disbanding because bandmates moved, and then I really wasn't involved in the scene at all until really like the pandemic years, when I really kind of, because that's what I was able to do by myself, like get into the space of doing music again. And then that kind of created the Hughes project. It created the band I'm in, Narwhal, which has been a huge part of my life the last 5 years, really active, doing a lot of things. And then kind of the biggest, most rewarding thing for me is just all the other people that I've met, right? Like whether they're musicians, other artists that support the music scene here in Yellowknife. And so it's been really rewarding being able to do that. And it's like pushed me out of my comfort zone to actually, you know, perform and co-write music and jam with others. So that's really rewarding. And I think through those relationships that I built, it was kind of seemed obvious to me that when I was writing this record or getting ready to record the record, that I wanted some of those people to be on it with me, just because I thought it'd be cool. I think it's really neat, you know, there are other people like yourself that are really about showcasing others in the community and really kind of wanting to help out, because without that, you can't really create a scene, right? Yeah, I put some feelers out. I already had the songs demoed. I asked a few friends who I respect as artists if they'd be interested, and two that came back and chose songs right away were Ben Cornell and Shay Elaine. So Ben Cornell, he's another local guy that's super talented. He has his solo singer-songwriter project, and he's in the heavy psych rock band Mooch. And then Shay Elaine, longtime Yellowknifer, who his project now is Mazes and Sub Islands, and he played guitar in Reuben in the Dark, so lots of experience there. Both those two guys came back and said, yeah, we'd love to collaborate on a couple songs. So they both ended up being singles prior to the album release. Ben performed on the song Passerby, and Shay performed on the song The Cabin. So it was super fun to have those guys in the studio and here with me. I think without them, the songs wouldn't really be what they are. Yeah, just really cool experience for sure. Yeah, I'm just really excited that Hughes has kind of morphed from the original thing that I was doing just by myself to the band. I'm so lucky, I can't stress that enough. Ben, Glenn, Vishwa, and Jer have been great to play music with. And I think going forward, like my next kind of big thing on the horizon for Hughes is to get in the studio with those guys and actually record some original music with the full band. Have a couple new songs. We actually performed one at our last live show. So yeah, I think probably pump out a couple singles here over the next few months, or at least record them and come up with an idea of how to get those out for everybody to listen to. Would really like to get out of town a bit next year, play potentially festivals, or maybe do a little a run with Hughes elsewhere in Canada. I think that would be a lot of fun. So kind of in preliminary thoughts about how that might work. And then just continuing to collaborate and support other local musicians in the scene here and in the north. Have some ideas around some like live in session videos that I've been spinning around my head, and talk to my good buddy Johnny Vu about. Might try to do something there, but again, just kind of trying to go full circle and kind of get the scene going, provide more opportunities for local artists, provide local or opportunities for you know, friends that are trying to do music too. Get some exposure for the North. I think that's the biggest thing that I've learned over the last few years, especially with performance. It's really tough to get out of the North. Not there's anything wrong with staying in the North and performing in the North, but it's always nice to create opportunities for yourself to tour or play festivals elsewhere in Canada just for that exposure. And there's just this massive perception that it's impossible to get out of the North, and we're so far away. When it comes to promoters and bookers and festivals, that I think kind of breaking that way of thinking is important. And I think just, you know, doing things like this series where different places in Canada and the world can see us and hear about what we're doing up here, and that we are a legitimate music scene and we do have good artists that we're ready to kind of get out and explore and share music elsewhere. I think that's important. So yeah, just want to help folks do that and create opportunities.